Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with dietitian and recipe writer Micah Siva, aka Nosh with Micah, and author of Nosh Plant Forward Recipes Celebrating Modern Jewish Cuisine. So I'm getting a Nosh theme.
I'd say that's an accurate representation of who I am. Yes.
So, I mean, I know what a Nosh is, but I feel like we need to define it before we dive further.
So I see the word nosh as it's just something that you just can't stop eating. And all of a sudden you look and it's gone because you ate it all and you didn't even realize you did it. It's just so easy to eat and to snack on. And there's always room in your stomach. There's like a second compartment for a little nosh. It's like your nosh compartment. That's not scientific. That's not from the dietitian side of me. That is from my recipe writer and food loving side of me. But it feels just like there's a little extra compartment where the nosh fits in. It fills in all the cracks in your stomach, and it's something you just can't stop.
Is that why you decided to be Nosh with Micah, or is there a story behind that nickname slash branding?
I don't think that's why. I think I just love the word, and it's always just something like we're going to have a little nosh. I want something to nosh on, and I just felt like it was exactly how I eat. I work in the kitchen, and so having 3 square meals a day isn't exactly something that I do because I'm always kind of tasting something that I'm working on and testing, and it just embodies how I like to eat. Where even when I'm having a dinner party with friends, it's not like we're having one main course, 2 sides, and we're done. I'm making 10 plus different little dishes for us to snack on, more like a meze style. And that gives me the feeling of abundance and excitement and deliciousness. So that's how I became Nosh with Micah.
I love that. And you also, it's like a healthy Nosh. So you're vegetarian, you're plant forward. I guess that's the phrase we need to be using.
Yeah.
Uh, but you normally don't think of Nosh as a healthy thing. So reframe that.
So I will say that the book is largely a lot of nutritious recipes, but not exclusively. And I think that noshing can be a healthy thing, and it totally depends on what your preferences are, what your timing's like. I'm a new mom, and so oftentimes now I've learned more than before that I don't have time to sit down for lunch, or my husband and I have to take turns eating dinner and feeding the baby. And sometimes it's easier just to grab a little thing here and there, and being really conscientious and mindful of those bits of food that I'm grabbing is so important so that I'm not reaching into a bag of tortilla chips all day until it's gone, but I have a well-stocked fridge and cupboard full of things that make me feel good as I'm noshing.
And so a Nosh doesn't need to be healthy, but it can be. Is that what we decided?
And nosh just has to be something you like eating.
Well, there's so many though. Do you have a favorite Nosh?
Oh, it depends on the day. If it's, I mean, outside of the book, of course, I have my favorite noshing recipes in there. But outside of the book, I am a popcorn kind of gal with olive oil and sea salt, or I am an apples dipped in peanut butter kind of person. So either one of those are my go-to noshes during the day. I mean, just before I hopped on this call with you, I just had a little bowl of yogurt and granola because I didn't feel like lunch. So it's there. I think what's so beautiful about the world of food is that there's no rules. There shouldn't be rules unless you're allergic to something, of course. And it's just such a beautiful place to have fun and listen to your body and listen to what you like and honor your cravings when you need to.
As someone who has always embraced the word nosh, perhaps too much at times, because I feel like you, I feel like sometimes the snacky things are even more enjoyable, or like a meal of appetizers, or like desserts where you've got little bites instead of big bites, because then you get to eat more because of balance. Can you give me like a quick your backstory of how you became Nosh with Micah?
Yeah, so I grew up in Calgary, Canada, and to a family of absolute food lovers. Anything and everything we would do was eat together. And even my favorite after school snack growing up was Kalamata olives and feta. And that's what I would have every day after school for my snack as like a 6 or 7 year old. That was my absolute favorite thing. And so I've always loved eating different things. And we ate really different things than my peers growing up because my parents had a love of travel. They had lived in Israel for some time. And my mom loved experimenting in the kitchen. And after high school, I went to culinary school in New York as a fresh 19-year-old and learned all about cooking and about myself as a 19-year-old living alone in New York City. And then after that, my student visa was expiring because I'm Canadian and I had to go back north. And so I decided that the thing closest to my love for food would be to enter dietetics and the nutrition field. So moved back to Canada and I worked as a food product developer. I had a little catering business and I became a dietitian and was working in Toronto in a community setting, teaching cooking classes to basically 3 years old to 99. And that was great. But I always felt like I wanted something a little bit more food related. I had tried the nutrition thing. I wasn't as passionate about the counseling and talking about health conditions all day. I really wanted to play with food. And so I started a simple vegetarian food blog like most dietitians do, I feel like. And I think only my mom read it and my husband, and that was it. And then in 2018, my husband and I moved to London, UK, and I needed to find a way to make money and occupy myself. And so I just really honed in on the blog, and I was still the vegetarian food blog, and I was working as a culinary producer for BuzzFeed Tasty. And we've moved a lot. Let's see if we can get all the spots. Then in 2020, we were asked to move to California, and that's where I decided to go 1,000% in on my business of writing food and recipes and doing food photography. And in that year, near the tail end, and now I say the first peak of anti-Semitism in the latest future, because now it just feels like we're climbing Mount Everest. I decided to pivot my blog to being Nosh with Micah because I noticed when I was cooking and making all these recipes and doing all these projects, the only things I was actually loving were the Jewish recipes and writing about my cultural cuisine and learning about it. And it made me feel, especially during COVID, connected to my family because they were all in Canada. We hadn't seen them in quite some time because pre-COVID, I was in London and hadn't seen my family in some time anyways. And that's where Nosh with Micah came from. So it went on this like weird journey of all these different places and like actual places. And we ended up moving from San Diego to San Francisco in I don't even know 2021. It's your guess is as good as mine at this point. But it's this is something that I've been able to move with me, which has been so important for my career, but also to build a story of Jewish food and Jewish food as a 30-something-year-old and Jewish person who doesn't eat meat.
So you went from Micah to Nosh with Micah, but you
Yeah.
really dove in with
Mhm.
both feet, both hands, mouth wide open, and the response has been really positive.
Yeah, it really has been. And what I think is so crucial is that I had read a book or listened to a podcast. I don't even know where it came from, but somebody once I read, I don't know, wherever this came from, I was told to look for your unfair advantage. And it doesn't mean that you're better than someone else. It's what makes you you, and you are uniquely qualified to do something. And so I looked at myself and I said, I am a trained chef, I'm a dietitian, and I'm a young Jewish woman in North America. And those three things together, not everyone is that. And there has to be people out there who are interested in what I might have to say about one of those three things. And that's really what encouraged me to jump in with mouth wide open, which I like, into it because I realize that not everyone is like that. I'm uniquely qualified to write vegetarian Jewish recipes because of those three things.
I am a firm believer that, we all have these things that we love. Why not share them with the world? What tips do you have for elevating noshes? Because whereas apples and peanut butter, yummy, olives and feta, terrific. But what's the next level or two up from that?
The next level or two from that is really getting creative and excited about things like spices and oils and different ways to flavor things that you're already doing. So maybe if I put something as simple as cinnamon on my apples, or use tahini instead of peanut butter, and then sprinkle a little bit of halva on there, and just getting really creative and thinking outside of the box from the usual. So for today, I had a bowl of yogurt as a little snack before this, and I put like a little fruit compote that I had made earlier in the week out of berries that were going bad in my fridge, and it was spiced with cinnamon stick and star anise and ginger. I think I put in there. I honestly don't even know what was in there anymore, but it had those three elements because all of my fruit compots do, and just getting creative with those spices and thinking outside of the regulars, kind of like the paprika, garlic powder, all-purpose seasoning, and whatnot, I think is one way that you can elevate your noshing, if we can we'll verb it, to bring it to another level. And it doesn't have to be that you have to add all 5 different spices. Go get a fun spice blend that you love, whether it's, I love the New York shawarma spice blend. I work a lot with Oaktown Spice Shop here in the Bay Area, and they've got some really awesome spice blends, like an apple pie sugar that you can sprinkle on things and just have fun in this spice section. So next time someone goes to buy a spice, pick one up that's new that you don't typically use and look for ways to use it.
I love it. Spice goals.
Spice goals,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Do
Spice
you
Girls.
have Spice Girls and Spice Girls? I
Yeah.
think we now have a band.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you have a recipe, a good nosh recipe to share? Because I don't think it's fair to talk about food without giving people a taste of what we're talking about. Pun intended.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I would say when it comes to nosh recipes in the book, obviously all of them you can nosh on whenever your heart desires, but one that I can't keep my little hands out of is my jar of halva granola. It's so easy to demolish a whole recipe in a matter of days. I have it on yogurt, I have it in my hand, I have it with milk, I have it anyway, really. And I love the little flakes of halva that you get in there. There's pistachios, and it's spiced with cinnamon and cardamom, and it's also tossed with tahini to help the oat clusters form. And it's just a delicious, sweet-ish, not too sweet granola that's nice for gifting or just for eating by yourself at home at night.
I feel like you need to make two, one for yourself and then one to gift, right?
Yeah, exactly. You always, if there's ever a granola recipe that you're making, always make two, because everyone, that's just a general rule of thumb. That's really just a life hack, is always make two recipes, because you'll just find yourself noshing on it all day. It's so easy to eat granola. And so halva is one of my favorite ingredients to use. I love it so much. And that's a really fun recipe to snack on all day.
Do you have any other nosh cooking tips, even though it doesn't feel like cooking and adding heat? We'll call it nosh preparation tips because it doesn't always require, right?
Yeah, I mean, the dietitian in me says, "Let's portion it out in a bowl and bring it to the table," but the nosher in me just brings the whole bag to the table. Um, but I would say with a noshing tip is learn how to use your freezer, because there are so many things that you can freeze. So if you're going to make hummus or baba ganoush or the granola, and you can have little jars or little containers or baggies of things in your freezer when your craving strikes. It's accessible and it's there. You don't have to think about cooking again. So I always have those little small plastic prep containers. And so when I make hummus, I'll put some in there, date it, and I know that I can take it out at a later date so I can have freshly made homemade hummus whenever I want. And that's what I try to do. So learn how to use your freezer and store food properly so you have a little bit of everything on hand.
Is there something you know now about noshing or cooking or both that you wish you knew when you started being you, I guess?
When I started being me. I think that I now know that it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be fun, it's meant to bring joy, and if you have enjoyment and a positive relationship with the food that you're eating, you'll be healthier in so many ways because of it. So, food is meant to be fun, noshing is meant to bring joy to you and the people around you, and always keep that in mind.
And if people are not having fun with their food, which to me sounds like not even possible, but let's just suppose. So what tips do you have for people to find the fun in their food prep?
Ooh, I think to find the fun in your food prep is buy a new cookbook or look at a new website, preferably buy my cookbook, and and just flip to a page. And honestly, I check what's on sale, and that's how I dictate what recipes I'm going to make for myself and my husband. But try a new recipe or maybe a new technique and get creative with it. And that might even be finding a new spice to play with in the spice aisle. And at the same time, embrace imperfection. Sometimes people feel like food is stressful and it's stressful to cook because it doesn't turn out the way that they want, but embrace imperfections. Sometimes the ugliest thing is the most delicious. For meat eaters, brisket lovers will understand that. It's ugly. It's so ugly, but people love it. And so embracing that is such a big part of it, and at the same time embracing shortcuts so that you have a chunk of time that's enjoyable to you. So if you really, really cannot stand chopping a butternut squash, buy it chopped if that's in your budget and make the recipe. Don't let time dictate what recipes you have fun with.
It's such wonderful tips. And I think just the word nosh is fun.
Mhm.
So it should be implicit that if you're creating a nosh or enjoying a nosh, you should be invigorated by the experience and put the love into the food will love you back, right?
Absolutely. Unless you're allergic to it. I have to have that disclaimer. Yeah. As someone who's severely lactose intolerant, I do enjoy eating ice cream, but ice cream doesn't love me back. So I also need to remind myself that uh, just because I love it doesn't mean it's going to love you back, and that's just a life lesson in general.
There's so many fun foods out there. There's so many different things to enjoy and ways to enjoy them. So I think that's the lesson, and to have fun. Even I just had this visual of if you can't decide what to eat, make like a dartboard and put like different things on there
Yeah,
and just let fate decide or put recipes in a hat. Make a
absolutely. I think
game.
yeah, making mealtime fun is so important, and it's something that I try to do. I mean, granted, some days are toast and egg nights for dinner, but I, having the space to have fun with your recipes and cooking is so important.
Well, I thank you so much for bringing the fun today. Where can people learn more about you and Nosh with Micah and, of course, your new book, Nosh?
So you can find me on social media at Nosh with Micah. That's Micah, or at noshwithmicah.com. My cookbook, you can find that wherever books are sold, preferably go help out your local independent bookseller and tell them how much you love it so they order more and more and more. And if you have any little ones, I also have a children's book that is centered around counting Jewish foods. So everything I do is food related. If you have questions about food or recipes, feel free to shoot me a message on social media or via my email.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Micah Siva, for sharing the love of the Nosh. And thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube and or your favorite podcast platform. And you can go to jewishjournal.com/podcast to get the recipes. Like, I cannot wait to try the granola. And also read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. So have fun with your cooking. Have fun with your noshing. Until next time, bon appetit.